let me take a few minutes to share what I shared some years ago with my leaders. And so, and by the way, I'm not going to presume to tell Brother Tracy how to run the church. So I'm giving you ideas. I'm giving you principles. But they have to be applied in a specific context. And so that's where your pastor is going to apply them, how he wants to apply them, and what works with the character and personality and history of this local assembly. So if anything I say seems to be opposite of what your pastor says, well, you know how that works. Just cross it off, or just put a PS and say, but the way we do it here is a little different, okay? And if I give you some examples, it doesn't mean my way is perfect. I'm just giving you examples to think about. Every church is different, and I don't like everything that our church did anyway. You work with the reality of your situation. You work with the people and the personalities and what you have to work with. So no church is ideal, no situation is ideal. So take all of what I say with some qualification implied, all right? But I'm going to share with you 6 commitments of the leader, and then 6 commitments of the follower. Now, this is just it's no scientific list. Many other things could be added or subtracted, but just what I felt was a priority. And in this context, probably everybody in this room is a leader, and everybody in this room is a follower. So it applies both ways, okay? So think in terms of the first 6 are the leader's commitments. So think of yourself as a leader, and whoever your followers are. If you just have 2 people that are accountable to you, well then this is your obligation. And of course it does depend somewhat on where you are in leadership. But the 6 commitments that I would expect the leader to make, that I pledge to make to my church and my leadership team, first of all is vision. A leader needs to cast vision. A leader can't just be in maintenance mode. A leader has to cast vision. Of course, if you're not the senior leader, then your vision has to mesh with that of the senior leader, obviously. But it has to be a fresh and personalized vision. You have to grasp it and feel it and transmit it. And as I said, I'm just going to hit some highlights, and if you want to come back and talk about some of these, we can. The second commitment is training and mentoring. A leader is not just supposed to do the work. A leader is supposed to train and mentor others to do the work. You need an assistant, not only to help you, but to train someone. So think in terms of not being the hero or the lone ranger or the indispensable person, but think of how do I create a team? How, even when our church was small, we are fortunate to have one person who could play the drums halfway. And there were times my wife prayed for God to save a drummer, prayed for God to save a bass player. But we developed to the point that we did not just have one person doing that, but we had several people. We rotated. Even my wife, she was the keyboardist, and as far as I'm concerned, she was my favorite and the one I would prefer to have playing. But she deliberately rotated and trained others, because the idea is not for one person to do it all and be the best. The idea is to train several people who can step in, because you always need more, and so even when you're small, you need to think about, how do I train my team? How do I train future leaders? You may not even tell them that you think they might be future leaders, but you start treating them like that. Training and mentoring. That's a commitment that a leader makes to the followers. Number 3, create an atmosphere of growth. So you have to create an atmosphere where growth becomes possible, personal growth and numerical growth. Now here's the problem. Everybody wants growth, but growth requires change, and nobody likes change. Everybody wants growth, but nobody wants change. So you have to overcome that inertia that exists within yourself and your team. So a lot of growth is creating a climate where change is not a bad thing, but change is a good thing. Change is a normal thing. Now, it doesn't mean random change or arbitrary change. But you can't let people feel like they own positions. And you can't feel like you own positions. You have to be flexible. In our church, we ask everybody to make a 1-year commitment. And there was a kind of an understanding that roles may change. And if the church grows, you have to change. Change is not necessarily bad. So we didn't think anything of it if 1 year somebody was the Sunday school superintendent, the next year somebody else was the Sunday school superintendent. Now, we didn't just arbitrarily play musical chairs, but we tried to create an atmosphere where change is okay. Change is not a threat. Change does not mean your self-esteem is destroyed. It just means that your role is shifting. And so that's part of what makes growth possible, a climate of growth, when there's an open attitude towards constant improvement. Instead of thinking, I'm going to create a perfect program and coast from here on out, you have to realize you'll never have a perfect program. About the time you get one thing working just fine, something else goes off track. About the time your youth program is just going great, the Sunday school's having struggles. About the time you get the Sunday school going great, the music program is having struggles. You'll never get to perfection. So if you change your thought and say, we're not trying to create a perfect church, but we're trying to create a growing church, it's always going to be changed. There are always going to be some adjustments. That's why you're the leader. If nothing ever changed, they wouldn't need you to be in charge of whatever you're charging. They could just put it on autopilot. So they need you to be creative and respond to changing circumstances. Number 4, provide opportunities for ministry. When I say ministry, I mean service. Now, as the senior pastor, I couldn't guarantee everybody that wanted to preach from the pulpit that they would have time to preach from the pulpit. But I would guarantee people that wanted to serve, I'll support you and help you find places of service. So that's what a leader does. And then care, depending on whether you're the pastor or what your role is, provide care to the people under you. And then number 6, communication. Communication is important, that the leader shares with the followers. A lot of times the leader knows where he or she is going, but they don't take time to explain to their followers, so their followers don't have a good understanding. A lot of times the leader expects the follower to report to him or her and communicate any problem, but a lot of times once it's communicated, that's the end, and the follower never knows what's going on or what happens. And while sometimes the leader can't give you the details, at least some word that, thank you, I was able to take some actions because of what you reported, and I appreciate it. Your input was helpful to me. Not at liberty to explain how we dealt with the situation, but your involvement was important so that we can have a positive outcome. That's always appreciated.